Gerry Brinkman from BereanNation.com. My thought this morning is, why do we do the things we do as believers, as a church, as representatives of Christ on earth, as his ambassadors? What drives our activity? It's an interesting question. Jesus actually addressed this in Mark chapter 7. I'll pick it up in verse 6, where he was actually answering a question put to him by the Pharisees about why his disciples didn't wash their hands necessarily and ceremoniously before they ate. And he says to them, starting in verse 6, "Rightly did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far away from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the precepts of men. Neglecting the commandment of God, you hold to the tradition of men." He was also saying to them, "You are experts at setting aside the commandment of God in order to keep your tradition." Now, I'll stop there. He goes on for a little bit here. So why is it that we do what we do? Is it because God said to do so in his word? Or is it set by some church board or synod because it seemed like a good idea at the time? Is your tradition so inflexible that it must take the place of the living Word of God? Or has it just become something you do so often there's nothing of reality left to it anymore? You're just kind of going through the motions and mailing in the effort. Both of those extremes need to be avoided. A lot of times these days, people get the impression that Christians do stuff to earn their way to God. And our traditions are really no exception to that. You do that because those are the works you do so you can get in good with God and go to heaven when you die. That's not what it's about. It's really not what it's about. Now, there is literally nothing external to us, according to Jesus, in verse 13 of this chapter, actually, that can defile us. The defilement, he goes on to explain, actually comes out of our hearts. And that means we're defiled already. No amount of external washing can clean out the insides. We need to be, as it says in Ephesians chapter 5 near the end, we need to be washed by the water of the Word. And I'm not talking about food here. In verse 19, Jesus actually, and it's part of the text, Jesus actually said all foods are clean. And that's a good thing because I love bacon. But man himself, in verse 23, is the source of the defilement. Why do we do what we do? Is it because, like Gideon, God told us to do it? And God told Gideon to do some pretty weird and incredible stuff. He told him to go defeat the entire Midian army with 300 of God's chosen men. God did the choosing, not Gideon. That is, God gave Gideon the rules for the choosing, but whatever. Judges chapter 8, verses 1 to 3, Gideon went out and he did what he was supposed to do because God told him to do it. He drove Midian out. And who got upset? Not Midian like you'd expect, but his so-called religious brothers, the tribe of Ephraim. And he answered them very wisely, too. The people that seem to oppose us the most, when all we're trying to do is what God says, are the religious people. Those people that show up for all the church board meetings and say, "Well, it doesn't say that in my Bible," or "We've never done that around here before." You know what I mean. We've all met those people and had to deal with them in some measure. You know, why do we do what we do? It's a good question to arrive at yourself. All I know is that I'm doing what I'm doing right now because God told me to do it. And it's created nothing but misery and hardship for me. Now, if I were walking in the flesh, I'd be paying a lot more attention to the misery and hardship. But, you know, it's not easy. You think about it. Acts chapter 12, James, one of the sons of Boanerges, the sons of thunder, is put to death by Herod. That's in verse 2. And, you know, if you read through Acts chapter 12, the main point of the whole chapter, I think, is that Herod, who was sort of an apostate half-Jew, was trying to curry the favor of the Jewish people because, you know, he wanted to be their king. When he put James to death and he saw how it pleased the Jews, well, he arrested Peter too. And then there's the story of Peter's miraculous escape from the prison and all of that. And then Herod afterwards, you know, after he orders the execution of all the guards who allowed Peter to escape, and really I don't think they had anything to do with it, you know, Peter escapes with divine aid. Herod dies a terrible, horrible death. Yeah, he's eaten alive by worms from the inside out. And, you know, my university degree's in biology. My specialty was actually entomology. The condition is called myiasis, and it's actually the larvae of blowflies that eat you from the inside out, and it can be a very rapid death. Yeah, horrible. But the whole point of that story is found in verse 24. But the word of the Lord went forth. And I take it from that you can put as many of us to death as you want. The word of the Lord will still continue to grow and multiply. Please don't mistake what I mean. I have no wish to die painfully. But if the Lord demanded it, I'm only going to go be with him. Rather stay here, though. Yeah, I got family, I got things I want to see, people I got to preach to, all kinds of things like that. And it really begs the question, why do we do what we do? Martyrdom actually tells you whether or not somebody's heart is really in it. You think somebody's going to die for something they don't really deep down believe in? Yeah, neither do I. Well, you could die for a lie knowing it's a lie. No, you can't. Well, somebody might have lied to you. These guys were eyewitnesses. Don't think so. You can't die for a lie when you know it's a lie. Sorry. Anyway, that's my point this morning. Think about why you do the things you do. I'm Gerry. This is BereanNation.com. You study the scriptures daily to see if these things are so.